Hello, everybody. Welcome to TAPED Crusaders. This is the show that reviews every single superhero TV show and movie that's ever existed. I'm your co-host, Mike L., and I'm joined by Joshua Mervell.
What's going on? Pretty excited to talk about this. This is a pretty interesting thing to watch. So
Interesting to say the least, yes.
Yeah.
And we were joined by Wonder Woman expert, Barry Andrew Helmer. Thanks for joining us, Barry.
Wonder Woman expert, sure. No, I am not. But I enjoy Wonder Woman. Thank you so much for having me. And this is wild because this is the first. This is the first live action Diana Prince.
This is the first. Yes, and we should point out. I think Wonder Woman's first animated appearance was a few years before this. Okay. On like an episode of a cartoon, like either. It was weird. It was like Brady Bunch or something weird. I'll look it up later. Yeah, it didn't make any sense.
Kind of like how the Muppets' first appearance was on Saturday Night Live, and you're like,
was
wait,
it
what?
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, interesting. So yeah, I didn't do any research, but there's a thing called Wikipedia that I will skim read through, so you don't have to do it for yourself. But basically, this came out in 1974. It was a pilot for an intended TV series. They basically turned the character into a James Bond-style super spy. I mean, you're going to find out everything else you need to know about the show just by us talking about it, but There's almost no resemblance to the comic book character. Mm-hmm. But we should point out that it was made during the I Ching period of Wonder Woman. Barry, are you familiar with the I Ching period of Wonder Woman?
No.
Okay. I'll tell you, I'll fill you in quick. So there was
Wonder Woman expert. I was like, yeah, I've read
a Wonder Woman comic before.
I've read a Wonder running Woman. Gag. You don't know anything about the character. So this was a brief period where, okay, just so everyone knows, Wonder Woman never really sold well past the 40s. However, DC has a very convoluted history of copyright with like Bob Kane always was able to sign his name to Batman. Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, well, they got screwed early on. But William, okay, sorry, I'm just going to look up his name. I can never remember. William Moulton Marsden was the creator of Wonder Woman. And he had this thing, there was this thing with his estate where DC was only allowed to publish Wonder Woman as long as they published 4 issues per year of the character. If they ever stopped doing that, the rights would revert back to the creators or the estate of the creator. However, the character never sold well, but they just kept pumping it out just to keep the rights. So this was one of the many, many kind of revamps they did of the character to try and drum up interest. And what happened was, I think it was Denny O'Neil, but it was also Mike, I can't remember his name, the artist, but basically they rebooted Wonder Woman. They got rid of her powers and made her kind of like Diana Rigg. Emma Peel from the Avengers, the original Avengers TV show, kind of just like a sexy kung fu super spy type character, and she had a mentor named I Ching, Asian, Chinese, okay. Right? And for I don't know how long this lasted, a few years. No American flag costume, no superpowers, no invisible jet, none of that stuff. She basically she learned martial arts and just kind of fought crime, right? So anyway. A lot of people look down on it, but it's a legitimate part of her history. And this was made during that period, so that maybe kind of explains why they didn't even care if they had the original costume. But as we know, this pilot was not successful because soon afterwards they did the Linda Carter version of Wonder Woman, which became successful. Now, Barry, Wonder Woman expert, have you seen the Linda Carter version of Wonder Woman?
Stop referring to me as that.
No, it's not a running gag. It's a gag.
No. I have. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I have. Yes, I have seen the Linda Carter version. Yep.
Okay, because I'm a fan of that show. I mean, it's no masterpiece, but I grew up on it. You know, everyone loves Linda Carter. It's fun stuff, right? Now we should point out it was not campy like Batman. It was serious, but still fun and goofy. It had a talking android. Do you remember the talking android little robot thing?
Yeah.
It was basically like a remote control car, but they gave it a voice, right? But it was cool. But anyway, this is something completely different. And as usual, our plot summarizer, Josh, is going to attempt to summarize the plot of this 75-minute pilot for Wonder Woman starring Cathy Lee Crosby. Oh, you know what? Before we jump in, did anybody know who Cathy Lee Crosby was before they saw this?
Oh, no. Before I saw it? No. But I did see that she was on the Love Boat.
Okay, that's important because so was Ricardo. Oh, no, Ricardo Montalban. He was Fantasy Island. He was Fantasy Island.
He was Fantasy Island.
Right.
Funnily enough, he wears the same exact costume in this as he does in Fantasy Island.
I cannot. Yeah, I can't wait to talk about
Ricardo
Montalban.
So here's the thing, Cathy Lee Crosby, I couldn't remember where I knew her from, but she was a co-host of That's Incredible, which I grew up watching.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And obviously she's very pretty. She just looks like a classic 70s model with like blonde hair and big smile, very classically beautiful. Not anything like I would picture as playing Wonder Woman, but we'll get to that. Mm-hmm. But Josh, you're going to tell us what the plot is of this pilot episode.
Okay, so at the start, we kind of see this montage of these books. And we learn, as they're kind of like traveling the globe, it's like a log of a bunch of soldiers and missions, and it's like classified information stored and recorded in these books. And we learn that they're very important, and they're being transferred at the moment, and this guy shows up with a bunch of goons, and he actually steals them. And that's kind of like the plot hook of setting us off on our adventure. We get the most half-assed flashback to Island of
Paradise Island.
Paradise Island. And
Themyscira.
Yeah. And we see that Wonder Woman is there, and she is being tasked to go on this super important mission. She has to go to the land of men and go to the United States of America because something very important is happening. She has a sacred duty to uphold. And then we flash forward to present day, and she's a secretary. That was her special job. Was she needed
a really good
so badly to be a secretary for some dude? And this dude being Steve Trevor. Who is like some sort of CIA agent, or he's not really an agent. He's more like he's higher up in the chain, presumably, because he has his own desk and he's kind of like running things behind the scenes. Anyways, he gets a call and they're talking about these missing books. And then Diana says, "Oh, I've actually got to go. I'm going to be away for a few days because I'm getting my teeth done at the dentist." And she comes up with this elaborate lie.
Right.
To leave. But we also find out that Steve knows that Diana is Wonder Woman. It's not a secret.
Did I miss that?
Yeah, because they work together the entire movie.
She's just being playful with him.
Right.
Like, she's talking about, I have to go to the dentist. And then he's just like, well, which dentist are you going to? And he references the different offices that got robbed across the world.
Like Berlin and France and all that.
So it's kind of, from a writing standpoint, I thought it set up really nicely that he knows exactly who she is.
Right.
And she does all the work in this office.
I think it would have been really great if it was played tongue in cheek. Like, she's like, I get it, I'm going away. But she was like totally serious. I was like, oh, okay. So she's just trying to come up with an excuse. And then later on, I didn't realize that was all just a bit because they didn't play it off like it was. Anyways, she goes, I can't even remember the first place she goes.
She goes to
Paris.
They're all. She goes to another back lot in LA.
Yeah, they jump around. You're right. They jump around all over the place. So she checks into the hotel, and immediately upon checking into the hotel, one of the goons that stole the books immediately recognizes her as Wonder Woman, in her civilian clothes, like she's just Diana. And he gets on the phone like, listen, Wonder Woman's here, calling his boss, like, something's up. So he tries to confront her in the elevator, and she just kicks him out and closes the door like nothing happened. And then later on, she's waiting in her hotel room, and the boss, the main guy, George, who is kind of like the guy in charge of these two goons that stole the books originally, he calls her hotel room and says, hey, baby, what's up? I saw you in the hotel room earlier. I asked the front desk what room you were staying in and asked for the number. So I'm calling you to be like, I got the hots for you. Let's go out on a date now. And she's just like, okay, let's do this, I guess. Like she doesn't have any idea that this guy is even tied in with this craziness going on. She just
she does. Yeah, she does.
Sure. Okay.
She does. She does.
But like, how does she know over the phone?
Because she references like basically
Okay.
like, yeah, like I just got attacked in the elevator. I know who the fuck you are, you idiot. Like,
right.
She plays every man who talks to her in this. Like she is cool as a fucking cucumber.
So they meet up. They go to dinner. He's coming on really strong. He's pretty much like, hey, do you want to go sleep with me? She's like, no, I'm out of here. So she leaves. I think it's at this point where she gets a call from she learns about the oh my god.
Well,
so much happens.
To be fair,
yeah.
I mean, we don't have to go into that much detail.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to cut you off. It's just more like I feel like the plot was convoluted, but not in a good way. Like,
right.
It's kind of like amounted to nothing. But anyway, you could just skim along, to your heart's content.
She tracks them somehow to their base of operations, but they knew that she was going to be there, so they leave a tape recording of like a pool party. So she thinks something's happening, and when she gets there, it's just a tape recording, and there's a phone.
That was weird.
So she picks up the phone, and it's this guy kind of in shadow, like we don't know who he is. He's kind of referenced earlier on as the mastermind, but we don't see his face.
And I want to point out, did anyone else get a Kill Bill vibe from that? Remember in Kill Bill when you could never...
I was thinking Claw from Inspector Gadget.
Okay, you know what? It's probably... Yeah, like, it's probably older than this, you're right, but it's clearly like a cheesy old trope that of like, you can't see the bad guy's face for the first half
It's also so very clearly a way to only have
him on.
Have to have Ricardo Montalban do one day on set.
There you go.
Yeah.
Good call. Yep.
But it's effective. It's a trope because it's effective. You're like, who the fuck's this guy?
Yeah.
Yep.
So she ends up chasing them to another country, I believe. So she gets to her new hotel room, and before she gets there, the goons booby trap her up her new hotel room. Not with a bomb. You'd think maybe like an explosive to get rid of her. It's a snake. It's a snake that they leave there.
Just a regular snake.
So when George calls her again to make sure she's in her hotel room, he presses a button which activates the door, and the snake comes over and wraps around. She easily finds a way to get rid of the snake with a glass of milk, and she goes to dinner with George once again, and pretty much is like, I know what's going on. She gives him the now dead snake as like a don't fuck with me type of move. We cut back to Steve, and he gets a giant crate in his office, and he opens it up, and it's okay. First of okay, whatever. It's not important. He opens it up, and there's a donkey inside, and he gets instructions to, and in exchange for the books back, $1 million is to be put in the satchels of this donkey. And then he's supposed to bring it to a town, say a sentence in Spanish, and smack it in the butt so it goes to where it's supposed to go. It's trained to know this. So he does this. We also get in between a scene of one of the other women from a fantasy, not Fantasy Island. Oh my god,
that's incredible.
Themyscira.
Oh,
she comes and warns Diana of one of the other Amazonians about Amazonians have traded, like betrayed them, and switched sides. So now she's on the lookout for another Amazonian because we need somebody for her to fight. So she follows the donkey to this abandoned town, and she takes out some of the goons and is able to go into the house where the donkey is. And as she's following it, a glass door falls, like shuts in front of her, and she can't get to the donkey. And she looks, and it's teleported to another place. The doors open again, and she rushes in to a room with no doors with a teleporter in it. And of course, the door shuts behind her, and it starts filling up with mud, the most poop-looking mud you've ever seen. She's easily able to kick open the door, though. It's not a big deal. What else happens in between here? She ends up meeting up with George, and the Amazonian woman is there, and they have the lamest, slowest spear fight in existence. Diana eventually snaps the other woman's spear and pretty much is like, now scram, and she runs away, never to be seen from again. And she follows George to the Grand Canyon, which is where the bad guy's secret base is. And this is where everything kind of comes to head. We get the reveal of Ricardo Montalban as Abner Smith, the most white name in existence.
Right. The least Ricardo Montalban name.
At least it's not a Sikh name like Khan Union Singh.
Yeah,
but anyway,
it's just
right.
Yeah.
So he is like giving some villain monologues. We get this like bet between him and George that Diana didn't survive and isn't going to show up. And in exchange, he'll like double George's payout. And Diana immediately shows up and is tied up and like locked into a room after using one of her bracers to explode the helicopter that Ricardo Montalban is going to use to get away. So as she's locked up, he starts running away. George is like, you know what? I've decided I'm not splitting my money with my goons. So he kills them off. Then he's like, I'm actually going to go after Ricardo Montalban now and shoot him and steal the money and take it all. In that confrontation, Ricardo Montalban is prepared, of course. He laced the saddlebags full of money with poison powder, and it easily attacks George, and he falls into a water and drowns because he can't swim. Ricardo Montalban is paddling away on his tiny inflatable raft, and Diana very easily escapes the prison and just pops up out of the water, and the movie ends immediately. Like, that's it. She pops up out of the water, and then he's arrested, and credits roll. Like, it is instantaneous.
One more scene.
Well, he does drop the best line ever.
Yeah, what does he say when she pops
he goes,
up?
Wonder Woman, I love you.
I love you.
But it's also like, I love the whole, because I have to point out there's an episode of Spider-Man that ends the exact same way, where someone's in a boat and Spider-Man stops the little dinghy, and the bad guy basically just goes, and he kind of lays back foiled again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's also funny how in the next scene the cops have arrested Ricardo Montalban, and he pulls out a stogie, and who carries a lighter on them but Wonder Woman? Why does Wonder Woman have a Zippo lighter?
It's even better. It's because Ricardo Montalban's character is so cool that he has given her his jacket because she's wet. So she's wearing his suit
Right.
jacket. The Zippo is his.
Oh right, yes, you're right.
But
That's hilarious.
I love this guy gets arrested and like he's like, you must be cold. I take my coat.
Yeah.
Talk about Mexican privilege.
It
But
is-
anyway,
Oh my god. This thing is absolutely insane. It tries to take itself so seriously. It plays everything so straight, but the things that happen are so ridiculous. You're just left like dumbfounded as to what the hell is happening.
So many donkeys.
So many donkeys. They have
burros.
They have the donkey trained to run into a cave and let out a bunch of other donkeys that are apparently exactly identical to that donkey. And they all run in different directions afterwards, so that way nobody knows where the money is going. The CIA is after you. You think there's only one CIA agent? Like, how shitty is this plan? And I also love that Ricardo Montalban is like, please, George, please, when you get the donkey, bring him to my library. I need it for later when I'm monologuing with Wonder Woman. It's like, what? Why is the donkey there the whole time? And it's like stomping on the cement, and it's so loud. Like they're trying to have a conversation, and you just hear clunk, 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 clunk. The whole it is absolutely ridiculous.
They refuse to say the word donkey in like this weird, like they just keep saying burro, and it's like, yeah, I know that's what it is, but it's also like I feel like by the end of it, I'm like, you are going so far out of your way to not say the word donkey in this scene.
It's like you said, Josh. It's like a weird tone because it takes itself very seriously, but everything that happens is ridiculous, which is it can be good in a way, right? Especially if you're doing a superhero show.
Yeah.
But it's not really a superhero show. It's kind of just a generic 70s action spy show.
If they lean into her having like powers or using her her lasso or her bracers or something, it would work. But she doesn't use it at all. And then in the final 10 minutes of the movie or show, she uses her bracers to set off an explosive. Like her bracer is an explosive, and it's also a tracking device. And her lasso is in her belt, and she just uses it as a grappling hook. Like it's not like the lasso of truth. It's so strange.
Well, because you got to remember they were aiming for James Bond, right? So instead of her things, they're all like Bond gadgets, right? So they're bombs or they're grappling hooks. So it's so funny because if this wasn't Wonder Woman, if this was just another, it's really clearly trying to be like a $6 million man, or like a Charlie's Angels or anything like that. And if it wasn't Wonder Woman, it would work as one of those because it's not bad. It's just you keep getting reminded that it's Wonder Woman and it's going out of its way to not be Wonder Woman.
100%. Everything that doesn't
she's
work.
She's good. She's just she's not a good Diana Prince because that's not the character.
Everything wrong with it is all of the Wonder Woman stuff. The flashback at the beginning and her sacred duty to go be a secretary is ridiculous. The Amazonian showing up to warn her out of nowhere, and then the Amazonian herself that betrays them, and her only motivation is she's getting paid money. It's so out of place for the culture and the world that they set up.
Yeah.
And how did Ricardo Montalban's character even find her to offer her the money? It just doesn't make any sense at all. If they set up that she was a villain from the start and was following her throughout and jealous and it could be an actual character, but they threw that in the background to focus on her being a secret agent. And her being Wonder Woman is 100% a second thought. It's it's not what they wanted to do.
I have
with
a question.
Yeah.
I have one question. At one point, she's chasing after Ricardo Montalban, and she beats him to the airport because she flies there faster. And then later he asks about it, and he's like, "How the hell did you beat me? Like, I took off before you. How did you get there?" And then she says, "Well, I have a really fast jet." And he goes, "I'd love to see it." And she goes, "Well, you can't because it's invisible." And I was just like, because of the show we were watching, I was just like, I get that this is a reference to her invisible jet, but is she joking? I can't tell. Because nothing else she has suggests that she has Wonder Woman-esque stuff. Yeah. So is the invisible jet thing just a joke? I don't know.
Right.
I don't know if she has powers, because the only time she ever does anything like intense is she kicks down that door, but then they show that it's like hard for her to do that. Because like she has to struggle a bit against it, and then she does it.
I'm not
so
sure
why is
that
she from? Why is she even from Themyscira?
I'm not sure that the invisible jet is like a joke. I think that they were like, well, she's got to have that, right?
Yeah.
Because even Ricardo Montalban was like, so when you're flying it, and then she's like, I'm invisible, and he's like, you're invisible.
You're invisible.
That's right. Like, it's like, what? How does he know about this? Like, how does he even like, oh yeah, I've heard of that before. That totally makes sense.
I thought he was just also being like
just playing along.
Yeah, like, you're fucking with me. That brings a good point though, is once Ricardo Montalban like shows up proper, like, god damn, he's good.
He's great.
He just owns the scene, and like he becomes like out of nowhere. I'm like, I love this character. Like, he likes her, and he's not even like he's like such a genuine villain, because he's like, yeah, I'm a villain, but like I don't want to be needlessly shitty. Like he wants to make sure the donkey goes to a good home. Like,
right.
Well, here's the thing about Ricardo Montalban. I mean, he's obviously from an older generation, but the only other actor who has as unique a speech pattern would be like Christopher Walken, right? Mm-hmm. Like, Ricardo Montalban doesn't speak like anybody. You could give him the shittiest dialogue on earth, but he would somehow find the drama and the passion. Right? It's like he gives every line a separate emotion, but it works. It never comes off as overacting, right? Mm-hmm. Obviously, Josh, you're familiar with Star Trek, right? Like, you've seen Wrath of Khan and the original Space Seed. He is incredible on screen. Yeah. And it's just like, even though this is just a piece of crap failed pilot, the fact that they got him as the bad guy is just incredible. Like, what? And
he doesn't phone it in for a second.
No.
Right.
I mean, except for when he literally phones in the first 45 minutes of the show.
Except the first half. You know, it's also funny, speaking of saving money, not only does he not show his face for like around the entire first half of the show, Wonder Woman does not show up in costume until I'm skimming through here. Like,
it's like 45 minutes in.
Yeah, about that.
I wish she didn't. I wish she never showed up in the costume.
Her costume is basically like a deconstructed salad version of the Wonder Woman costume. It has the stars, right? It has the red, it has the white, but it's not the same costume. It has the eagle, kind of.
The little yellow eagle. Like a Daredevil costume, not like Daredevil the superhero, but like a stunt,
like Evil Knievel.
Evil Knievel,
right.
Jumpsuit.
You're right.
Maybe that's just because she rides a dirt bike at one point.
Maybe, but like it doesn't even make sense for.
No,
it doesn't make sense for the secret agent.
No,
it also doesn't make sense for the Amazonians.
Right.
Like it's not like...
Yeah, because she's wearing a material that only existed in 1974.
Right.
Yeah, it's very strange. And so, it doesn't make sense at all. Because it's not a superhero costume, right? Like, it doesn't look like a superhero costume at all. So if they were trying to go for that,
it looks like the $6 Million Man costume, basically the windbreaker, but make it Wonder Woman.
Well,
right.
So Liv, we should describe this because this is an audio podcast, but basically, she has blue spandex tights, blue kind of leather boots, blue sleeves with the stars, just like the American flag on the comic book Wonder Woman. Then she has a red, what would you call that? Like, it's kind of like a jacket. You called it a windbreaker, Barry, but...
Yeah, it looks like windbreaker material. Yeah. But it's got kind of like a skirt to it.
Yes.
Yeah. It's an article of clothing I've never seen before.
Right.
Yeah.
It's got like weird. This huge like collar that folds, and it's like
it's got a zipper.
Yeah, the zipper goes all the way down. Like it's
Google
like a full on just
Google.
jacket.
Yeah. Google it right now, and you'll not be sorry that you did.
Yeah.
And then she does have the eagle on her left breast. And so again, this has all the elements of the Wonder Woman costume of the comics, but everything's kind of moved around a little bit, right?
Right. And her lasso is like a belt.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's like a gadget almost. Like
it's a real Mission Impossible.
Yeah, the end is like on the buckle that she can like pull out and like unwind the lasso, but it's not a lasso, it's just like a rope. Big golden rope.
Yeah, it's a very light rope.
Yeah.
So we've already talked about Ricardo Montalban. We've talked a little bit about Cathy Lee Crosby, but I think Barry, you said it. Her acting is fine, and she actually has kind of like a cool attachment.
I like her. Yeah.
She's actually fine as Wonder Woman. I guess she's just. I mean, Linda Carter. Everyone loves Linda Carter. Now let's just pretend for a second. Can you imagine if she went on to play Wonder Woman? Would you guys be happy with this version of Wonder Woman? And
sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Barry. Or go ahead, Barry. No, go ahead, Josh.
If this had turned into a show, I think that this is what Wonder Woman would be like today.
Yeah,
I think that if this was a success, this is what we would think of Wonder Woman.
Okay, you just thought of a really good like comic book they should do.
Right, yeah.
What if Cathy Lee, blah, blah, blah. Because you're right, considering how influential the TV shows and movies are on the comic books, right?
Yeah.
You're totally right. If this would have hit, then we wouldn't be talking about the George Perez Wonder Woman or the Greek gods. We'd be talking about how cool Wonder Woman is as this super spy with all these gadgets. And like, remember back in the 40s when she was like a demigod, and who cares about that version? This is the real Wonder Woman. Right? Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
because the Carter version really did influence the way the character progressed past that. Like there were things in the show that kind of, like the twirl. That's it's dumb, but it's still a part of the. All of that like kind of comes out of that, and I think that. It's interesting because even now, if you look at like the modern Wonder Woman, how much the iconic costume, which carried from the comics, but then really kind of came back with Linda Carter, because like you said, like the comics had already by the time this pilot came out had filed down her edges already.
Yeah. So
Linda Carter coming back and just being like, well, why don't we just do the Wonder Woman from the comics, from the earlier comics? Yeah, I think Josh is right. I think if this had been bigger, this might be the version of the character you would get.
So knowing that, I should also point out that this version of the character did return in a limited run. Let's see here. In Infinite Crisis, she came back as the Wonder Woman of Earth 462. I don't know if it was just one panel.
That's
or a couple.
Awesome.
Yeah, but I'd like to dig into that just to see. I mean, why not? Multiverses are all the rage. Why not do the multiversal version of Wonder Woman, right? Why not? That'd be cool to see.
Yeah, because I don't think that this pilot was done very well, but the character is very interesting, and the character's intriguing, and kind of mission that she's on. it's like a pretty good idea. And her traveling around, like, I feel like this is something that could have caught on if they would have chosen the right way to go about it.
Or if it was an original character.
Yeah, like, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, there's one other character we haven't talked about, and that's everyone's favorite supervillain from the comic books, George Calvin.
George.
Played here by Andrew Prine. No, I'm kidding. George Calvin does not appear in the comics, but
right.
Andrew
I was gonna
Prine,
say.
Yeah, he's the guy that like basically demands that he makes love to her. Remember that guy?
Yeah. I remember.
Yeah, you remember. So
she has so much contempt for this guy that it's like, it's so great because I'm like, I hate this fucking guy too. Everybody hates him. Ricardo Montalban hates working with him. Like,
yeah, right. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this actor, but I hope, Barry, you've seen the show. Does anyone remember the original version of V?
I've never seen it. No.
Oh my God! Well, then you're borrowing my Blu-ray set. Okay, Andrew, you do a podcast about TV shows, right?
I do.
Do you know what the premise of V is?
No, not really. Actually, I remember it came back in the '90s, but no. I mean, my podcast is about failed or forgotten sitcoms.
Okay, this is not
which
failed.
is interesting because this. Out of all the shows, out of all the guest starring things I've been on here, I'm like, oh, this is really more in my wheelhouse because like, it's a failed show. But yeah.
Right,
no, very familiar with it being a popular sci-fi thing.
Yes,
I mean, never really necessarily did big ratings or anything, but.
And actually, it
most
did.
of the best. Oh, did it? I was like, but most of the best sci-fi that never really matters anyway.
The original miniseries. Josh, are you familiar with V?
No.
Oh my God. So the minis. Okay, just imagine this. Okay, as far as I know, is everyone familiar with Roots?
Yes.
Okay, Roots was the biggest rated miniseries in history. I think it kind of started the genre of like the miniseries. After Roots, one of the second biggest was V. Okay. So 2 movies, and then a year later, 3 movies. That's your 5 episodes, okay? Your 5 movies. This is a show about aliens appearing on Earth in these gigantic UFOs that appear over every major city on Earth. The UFOs, the flying saucers, are the size of a city, okay? When we meet these aliens, they're friendly, but later on, everyone's favorite action hero, Mark Singer, who plays Mike Donovan, learns there's a secret. You guys don't know the secret of these aliens?
No.
Okay, then I'm not going to spoil it for you. I'm just going to tell you, this is one of the greatest fucking things ever created, and I'm gonna lend my box set to both of you because it is so fucking good. If you Google V, it'll be spoiled. I'm going to just tell you. What happens is, I'm just going to tell you.
I think you actually gave me the DVD of this.
I did?
Yeah.
And you didn't watch it. Why not?
I think it must have been like when I was moving. It must be packed away with my DVDs or something.
Right. It's probably it's one of those things I told you to watch.
Because I think you even gave it to me with a sticky note over the back to cover up the synopsis.
That said, watch before February 21st, 2023.
Right.
Anyway, no, basically, if you Google it, it'll be spoiled. I'm just going to tell you. What happens is they appear like friendly, normal people, except they have to wear sunglasses. So it's like, oh, that's interesting. Why are they so sensitive to the sun? Well, it turns out Mike Donovan sneaks through the back like air ducts of the spaceship and sees that underneath their human skin, they are lizards.
Oh, this is where lizard people comes from?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
They are lizards, and that becomes the premise of the show. It's basically a metaphor for Nazis of kind of like people appearing to be intelligent and benign, but actually they have a sinister agenda behind the scenes. But I'll tell you right now, as long as you can accept the slightly lower budget and the 80s slight little bit of cheese, it is a fucking good show. Really good. Sorry about all the swearing, listeners, but it's a really good show.
I was off to a pretty good start on the swears.
Yeah. True. So anyway, so the point of my story is besides all the great actors in this show, including Michael Ironside, Andrew Prine, who played George Calvin in this Wonder Woman pilot, is like the fourth in command of the visitors. They're called the visitors. V.
Oh, V.
Yeah, V for visitors. So he's like the fourth or fifth in command. And his character is so cool. He's so slimy. And just, anyway, all the actors in the show are great. But the cool thing is just like now, back in the, you know, when you watch a British TV show, they all feature the same 25 actors. Like all British actors are in every Harry Potter movie and every BBC show. They all have the same rotate. It's like the cortisone. All the same people coming back for every role, right? So back in those days, you'd watch a TV show and all the actors from V are in Wonder Woman. They're all in $6 Million Man, right? They're all in whatever. And anyway, this guy is one of the guys in V, and it's great. That's all. That's the point of my story.
Yeah, it's like when you're like in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, when they're all just like, oh yeah, I did an FBI last week. Oh, I'm doing one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so we've talked about, and we've already talked about Ricardo Montalban. I don't think there's any other actors we need to talk about, really. We've covered the main ones, right? What about the other Amazonian?
Oh, she was bad.
Yeah.
Anitra Ford. I mean, she was pretty hot, though, eh?
You mean Angela?
Yeah,
Angela.
Just say Angela.
Yeah, exactly. You got to make it cool. It can't be Angela. It's Angela. And by the way, it's spelled Ahnjala.
Oh, I guess that would be how you do it.
Yeah, that's like, yeah, exactly, eh?
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, because, like, Cathy Lee Crosby was good, Ricardo Montalban was good, Andrew Prying was good. So she sort of stood out to me as, like, oh, you're not as good as these other ones.
Yeah.
She's just kind of like almost like a non-actor. She's not really, she's just kind of there being all kind of sexy and, you know.
They have like a javelin like throwing contest at some point, and like I was like, I get like the javelin. I feel like that was trying to like tie in with like, you know, like Greek mythology a little bit, but like I also feel like that it was like maybe one of the writers like patting themselves on the back for sneaking in a reference to Wonder Woman's like roots.
Yeah.
Because like the network was like, no.
Right. I'll have her eat olives, then they'll know she's Greek. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know. What else is there to say about the show? It failed. We can kind of see why it failed.
Yeah.
We'd like to see a comic book version of what would have happened if Cathy Lee Crosby kept playing Wonder Woman, right? That's Josh's idea. Other than that, I guess I can just say that's it. Is there anything else to say about this version of Wonder Woman, Barry?
Oh, geez. No, not really. I mean, like, again, for people listening, like, absolutely Google it because, like, the costume's wild.
Yeah.
But also, like, it's interesting because, yeah, like, if you ever do somehow end up watching it, you'll probably be surprised that, like, if you ignore all of the Wonder Woman elements to it, it is pretty watchable as like a 70s spy show.
Right.
And like to the point where I'm like, you know, is it any worse than say like the pilot of like Alias or something? Like, no, not really.
Right.
I could kill time watching a show like this because she's great. Like she really holds your interest. Like she really gives no shits. She's just not Diana Prince, you know, and like that's fine. But it is a Wonder Woman show.
Yeah. It's a pretty kind fine of pilot, but like a pretty shitty Wonder Woman pilot.
It's a terrible Wonder Woman pilot. Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
I think the last thing I'll say is it's a complete myth that snakes like milk. If you're being attacked by a snake, do not put milk out. It will not drink it. That is just not true.
That snake went right for that milk.
They took one little sniff in the air, and
the reason is that snakes are lactose intolerant.
I had to Google it.
We don't want to hurt the
because
snake.
when I was watching it, I was like, "This can't work," and I was like, "No, it doesn't."
No,
important. So anyway, there you go. Now I'll have everybody know that I accidentally erased all of my records and plans for the next episode of all of our shows. I'll explain later what happened. But I have no idea what our next episode will be, but I'll figure it out. But be sure to join us on the next episode of Taped Crusaders. Barry, we'd love to have you back. I'm sure
You know me, I love bad TV and...
Awesome.
To the point where this is only the second worst Wonder Woman pilot I've ever seen.
Yes, good point. And for all listeners out there, also be sure to tune in for a very special surprise episode of Quasar Chronology. We brought it back for one episode, so be sure to tune in for that. And also be sure to join us next week for Slam, again, featuring a review that I haven't figured out yet because I lost all my records. So there you go. Josh, you can take it from here.
Thank you guys so much for listening to our podcast. And you can find all of our stuff over on our website at thecomicbooksyndicate.com. All of our podcasts, our videos, our surprise live streams will all be posted there. You can also find us on Facebook and YouTube, also at The Comic Book Syndicate. Please leave us a comment, write a review, let us know what you guys think about the things we're talking about in the podcast themselves. We want to keep that conversation going.
Great. So until next time, see you later.
Bye.